Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rav Shmuel, Rabbi Stephen, with you with this week's 10-minute Torah, which is the Parashat of Vayeira. Now, before we get into that, I'd like to kind of make a little bit of a comment. So I've been doing services for many months now, and I like to think that I'm always responsive to any requests that people have or any feedback. Um, my thinking is that if we're going along and nobody says anything, then y'all like the services and we're good to go. But if somebody makes a comment about what they like, what they don't like, it seems that even though only one person is making a comment or giving me feedback, perhaps there are others who feel the same way and yet haven't made the comment. Somebody told me that once, that for every one person that calls into a customer service department at a company, there are 10 people that feel the same way that don't. So, having said that, please feel free to give me feedback about how I do the services. Um, we keep it to a certain length. I try to include certain things, a certain amount of Hebrew readings, certain amount of English readings. One of the things I want to do is give everybody who's in the service, or as many people as possible, an opportunity to lead a responsive reading, or come up for an aliyah, or do something so that you feel involved. And also some of the melodies that we use, some of the psalms that we say. So basically, I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Let me know how you feel, right? Click like, that type of thing. Uh, and again, I don't mind a little bit of critique. I don't mind if you don't like something and you'd like to see something done differently, because I'm basically here to serve you, right? And I want to make sure that the services are meaningful and inspirational to you. Okay, so again, you've got my contact information, write, call, text, whatever. So, Parsha Vayeira. There's a lot going on in this particular portion, and it happens to be one of the longer ones. So we start out with Abraham, who is recovering from his circumcision. And because of some of the situations, some of the scenes, some of the situations that are described in the Torah, the sages felt that it actually takes 3 days to recover from circumcision. Remember, in those days, Abraham being a grown man, there was no anesthetic, there was no way to numb it. You just did it, and then you sat there in pain for a few days. Nevertheless, he was sitting outside his tent, something he liked to do, and when three strangers approached, he immediately stood up and offered them hospitality. And Abraham is seen as the model of a lot of our mitzvot, a lot of our activities, and it talks about being kind to the stranger. Here's our first example. So these are not three men, these are three angels disguised as men. And Abraham, first of all, offers them curds, and which is milk, which is a dairy product. Has fetches a calf, has one of his servants slaughter it so that his wife Sarah can prepare it as a feast. Now, this is an interesting idea here in this particular portion, because people say, well, here's Abraham eating milk and meat, so is he violating kashrut? And then some people say, well, the kashrut laws have not been introduced to our people yet. Even though has been the covenant, the Brit Milah, the circumcision, we don't have any guidance yet from Hashem about our dietary laws. Other sages look at it and say, well, now wait a minute. Remember, nothing in the Torah is per chance. Everything is done for a specific reason. So if you see an order, if you see things described a certain way, there's a very specific reason for that. And if you read through this first part of the Parsha, you will see that he offered them curds and had his. Okay, so the fact that he's offering them the dairy products while his wife and his servant are preparing the meat products might lead one to believe that he was eating milk before he was eating meat. So remember, the kashrut laws, and it's happened, and it's described a few times in our Torah, say don't cook a kid in its mother's milk. That's all it says. So the sages say, okay, we don't eat milk and meat. But they never really talk, and this is where Talmud comes in, the oral tradition, which kind of fills in the blanks. It's the description, it's kind of the commentary. How soon after eating milk can you eat meat? How soon after eating meat can you eat milk? Now, if you notice today, rabbis say that you can have a glass of milk or cheese or yogurt and then rinse your mouth and then go eat meat. But once you've had meat, depending on your minchag, your tradition, the Dutch allow an hour, the Sephardic allow 3 hours, and the Ashkenazic are the longest. They want 6 hours before you can then partake in dairy again. Somebody in the medical profession, the wife of my mentor who was a nurse, reminded us that it takes about 3 hours to digest food. So here's kind of the precedent where Abraham and served his guests meat, milk, and then they ate meat. Okay, so who are these guests? They're angels. And angels, as we know, do not eat, but it appeared. Remember, they're disguised as humans, and if they're disguised as humans, they're mimicking things that humans do. Now, each angel, and the Eitz Chaim Chumash discusses the fact that the Hebrew word for angel is melech. Yes, same root as king, malach, but it's also related to the word malacha, which means task. So each angel is there for a specific reason. The first angel is there to tell Abraham that Hashem is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and there's a few other cities there too, because the people are not righteous. Another angel, the second angel, is there to warn Lot to get out of town. And the third angel is there to tell Abraham that Sarah is going to have a child. And once the first angel does his job of telling, of saying that Sarah is going to have a kid, because the second angel, talking about Sodom and Gomorrah being destroyed, also accompanies the other angel. So there's two of them that go on to Sodom to meet up with Lot. So after this, as the angels depart, the two angels, because the first angel has done his job telling Sarah she's going to give birth, Abraham approaches Hashem and says, you're going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And God says, yes, I am. And Abraham says, okay, wait a minute. Now, what if we can find 50 righteous people? Will you destroy an entire city or group of cities if we can find 50 righteous people? So Abraham does something that Noah didn't. Because remember, God destroyed the world with Noah. Noah said, okay, I'm going to build an ark, get my family out, rescue my family. Abraham takes the additional step of arguing with God, of bargaining, saying, well, if we could find 50 people, will you destroy? And God says, no, for 50. And Abraham's like, wait. What about 50 minus 5? What about 45? God's like, okay, 45. And then Abraham finally bargains Hashem down to 10 people. Done. And this, by the way, is where we get the tradition of needing 10 adult, and it used to, in the old school, as adult males who've been bar mitzvah. Now it's just 10 adults. We include kids that are 13. We include women, in order to make a minyan, in order to recite certain prayers, which are sanctifications, which is the Kaddish, the mourner's Kaddish, the full Kaddish, the complete Kaddish, the Chatzi Kaddish, also the Baruch Hu, also the repetition of the Amidah, the Tefillah, the standing silent prayer. Nowhere in the Torah does it say you need 10 people to say certain prayers. This, again, is a rabbinical declaration based on what they call exegesis, analysis from the Torah. So, of course, the two angels make their way to Sodom, where Lot, Abraham's nephew, is now living in the city. He's moved from the tent outside from the suburbs to the city. And he meets them, and he, again, invites them in for hospitality. And the townspeople find out about this, and to a single person, every single inhabitant, every single male of Sodom goes to confront Lot. And they're going to take those two people, they think they're men, they're going to take them out, and they're going to attack them. Okay, we can talk about what they were going to do to attack them at a later date. This is a public forum. I don't really want to get into it, but I think some of you know what they want to do to them. Hence the word sodomy. So the angels send a blinding light. And what we see here is that it's been confirmed that these people are not worthy of redemption, because every person, down to each person, was ready to join in to attack these strangers. So God makes it rain of sulfurous fire. Lot and his wife and his two daughters, they leave. Of course, the wife turns around. She stumbles in her pace, so she gets hit with the fire, becomes a pillar of salt. Lot makes his way to a cave. The daughters think they're the only ones left. They force their father Lot to sleep with them because he's old and they want to repopulate the world, and such as it is. So that's this week's portion. We will see you this tonight, Tuesday night, for our Torah study. We will see you next week for that services. Please join us in services. Judaic Studies starts again next week. See you then. And of course, thank you for listening. Again, let me know of any feedback you might have for services or anything else. Shabbat shalom.